On the occasion of World Drowning Prevention Day, we want to remind everybody that we have a brand new open water swimming course that's available gratis at read.swimisca.org. And then in September, all are invited to the East Coast Open Water Festival. We especially want to send out a warm welcome to the university and college teams to come as a squad because we're having a new university division in that event. It happens at the end of September at Smith Mountain Lake. We're also sending out some warnings. Open water swimming is a fantastic activity, and we're going to talk a little bit with Barry Healey about some progress we're making on insurance, but also he had something happen in his neck of the woods where there was a swim across the lake and one of the participants didn't make it to the other side.
Comes from, and I spoke to a lot of coaches over the weekend about different things who come from different programs, and big programs to small programs. And what I'm finding, and you probably find it in the States, that there are too many coaches scared of losing their jobs. That's just one issue, and that would include everything you and I have talked about. Then there are too many coaches that have no control of budgets, politics, no experience in politics, right? So it's better, they're thinking, it's better for to just do the same we've always done. And then, like, I've been talking to some of the coaches about that couple of ideas, and they said, Barry, I like that. How do you think we start? I said, I need 5 or 6 guys to be interested. That's the first thing. But then you have to go, we need some test projects. I think we've done it on the insurance. The insurance was just an issue that you and I got concerned about. Next is we have lawyers involved, we have coaches involved, we have national governing bodies involved. And it's there. And now and I'll try during the summer here, can we have those things accredited as a CP? They could put it together. We could put it together. There's going to be a quiz at the end of the thing, and you'll get your points. Then it's starting to get some momentum. That all young coaches, you better take this. And to the point, once the numbers get good enough and big enough, that will transfer over from these are optional, these are non-optional, that you need to know. Because at some point on the insurance issues, somebody's going to come up to the case, get nailed. I didn't know anything about it. And go, well, that's your fault. Or I didn't tell my assistant staff because I didn't think he would ever get nailed. And it will go bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we'll have to sit back at that point and say, did I not do enough to warn people?
Tell me about that event where someone drowned. Was it a recreational event, or was it a race, or
it's counting on times. They get time from one time to the other. It's right by the road, like at the bridge, and they swim across the lake. And somebody started it off probably in the 40s or 50s. I think we can swim across that. And it's grown and grown and grown. It's got its own company now that deals with it. The money goes to the YMCA to pay for kids that can't afford lessons. And it's done by numbers. I think that, the fastest guys that have been in there that lead off like in a triathlon, all the stuff that's come in and I think there was over 1,800 people, maybe 3,000 people during the day attempting this stuff. And I don't know whether the person got found on this side, it doesn't really matter, or got found on the other side. But you would have a better idea of where the accident happened. If it was early, then wasn't ready for that type of thing. And if it was the other, maybe the waves and the toll, and they weren't fit enough, or they just, assumed you can go that far.
And how far is it?
It's only 1K. And it gets a lot of press. It's got sad press now, but gets a lot of press about what it does and how popular it is. In fact, it's done so much that Kelowna is going back to building a swimming thing right downtown. They used to, in all of the places that were all connected by this R Lake and the other big lake. In the 30s and the 40s, the regattas, you probably still have them, the regattas were big. Anywhere from 3 days to 5 days, everything from swimming races to yacht races to kayaking races. But the lake was very important in those days in that everybody only got about by steamboats. So they're going to rebuild everything with a dock and a diving thing and everything else because they can see open water is becoming very, very important. But at the other side, some of my friends still don't know that open water at the Olympics is on the chopping block. I spoke to a few people that are into open water, and they said from a Swim Canada point, the person I was talking to said, Barry, yeah, I read it this week too, that it might be in LA and it might not, but it definitely will not be in the one after. And that's a shame, but the person was pretty knowledgeable. And he said they haven't done what they said they were going to do, Barry. They've gone too much focus on the top 3 or 4 going to World Championships and going to where the goal was. Originally, we had an open water age group championships, like an 800 and a 1500 and a 3K and a relay, to bring more and more kids into open water. Then I thought they made it a little too tough that you have to qualify in the 1500 for nationals to even take part in that. And you're going, that just shut a whole bundle of kids off, especially the local town where it was. We keep making the same mistakes. You're going, you have to invest. I look at cycling. If you look at cycling in the UK, after they got took over by the big company that runs the Tour de France and took over Man U, I think it's an American company. They did everything by the book. They got cities to close down and have cycling days for families. And that got a huge boost of everybody wanting to go back to buying bikes. They even then took it to the next stage where you can get help buying a bike to get to work financially from the federal government, just like you can if you buy a decent car, electric car and stuff. And then swimming, we seem to miss those opportunities. It could be maybe there's only a few of us trying to push. But on the other side, I think sometimes we don't take the issue serious enough and go, nobody's going to do it. If we sit back.
Since 1949, the Across the Lake Swim in Kelowna has stood as Canada's oldest and largest open water event. Every summer, over 1,200 participants gather at Lake Okanagan to tackle grueling cross-water routes of up to 2.1 kilometers. Because staring down a massive expanse of deep water is inherently intimidating, organizers built a highly welcoming infrastructure. They even host free anxious swimmer clinics specifically designed to help beginners manage their fears and learn how to navigate the open water safely. To back up that welcoming environment, the event relies on strict pre-race protocols. Every swimmer is required to wear a brightly colored assigned cap and an ankle tracking chip. Together, these tools are meant to weave a foolproof safety net over the entire lake. But on the morning of July 18, 2026, that carefully managed celebratory environment collided with something entirely outside of the organizers' control: a sudden, extreme shift in the weather. What began as a community race rapidly deteriorated into a desperate fight for survival for dozens of participants, ultimately resulting in the tragic death of one swimmer. The disaster exposed a razor-thin margin for error. It demonstrated exactly how quickly severe natural conditions can shatter the illusion of human control, overwhelming even the most heavily regulated community events. This diagram shows how organizers structure the race to prevent early disaster. Instead of a traditional mass start, which creates a chaotic, dangerous density of kicking and thrashing bodies, the event utilizes a rolling start. This generates an evenly spaced, controlled flow of athletes entering the water. Looking at this same diagram, we can see how the mandatory ankle timing chips function. The digital system logs each individual dot as they pass designated checkpoint lines, ensuring organizers know exactly who is actively in the water and who has safely climbed out. Beyond the digital tracking, there is a human-powered layer of security. A fleet of volunteer support paddlers in kayaks and on paddleboards is deployed along the route to keep a physical overwatch on the pack. Organizers also recommend the use of a swim buddy, a high-visibility inflatable tow float that trails behind the athlete. However, prior to the 2026 event, this piece of gear was merely suggested, not legally mandated. This multi-tiered combination of digital ankle chips and human paddlers gave everyone involved a profound sense of security. The assumption was that these overlapping protocols were robust enough to outmatch any environmental variables the lake could produce. That assumption dissolved mid-lake on July 18th. The weather turned violently, battering the swimmers with high winds, aggressive chop, and incredibly strong currents. This map illustrates the physical impact of those currents on the 2.1-kilometer route. Instead of maintaining their intended linear path across the lake, the sheer force of the water pushed the pack of swimmers hundreds of meters north, completely off the designated course. Participant Jeff Joyce described fighting the current at maximum exertion for over an hour. As the map shows here, despite swimming continuously, the water's force trapped him in place, allowing zero forward progress toward the shore. Simultaneously, the heavy chop created a critical visibility failure. The swelling waves physically obscured the scattered swimmers from the support boats, while the splashing water forced athletes into involuntary lake water ingestion. The highly structured safety net immediately collapsed. Organizers were forced to abandon the digital tracking plan entirely and recall their support paddlers to initiate a disorganized, nice rescue effort in the chaos. 2 hours into the race, the system failure reached its tragic culmination. A 67-year-old man was found unresponsive in the water and could not be saved. The events on the lake proved that when nature exceeds a specific threshold of violence, the most robust human tracking and support systems become instantly obsolete. In the immediate aftermath, the Across the Lake Swim Society issued statements of heartfelt condolence, while the RCMP launched a full investigation into the breakdown of the event's protocols. As participants and city leaders reflected on the tragedy, a sobering consensus emerged. Despite months of meticulous planning and preparation, the foundational safety requirements simply failed the reality test of the open water. The most likely consequence of this tragedy is a strict policy shift. The high-visibility swim buddy, previously treated as an optional piece of gear, will almost certainly become a mandatory requirement for all future participants. The brutal logic behind the shift is clear. By requiring a physical floating marker, organizers can ensure that no struggling swimmer is ever visually lost in the waves again, even if their digital tracking chip fails. We can engineer meticulously layered safety systems for endurance sports, but the untamable force of open water demands constant respect and the humility to evolve our protocols when nature violently reminds us who is in charge.
Let's pause with today's fortune statement.
Ask yourself how comfortable you would be about yourself, not knowing how good you really could be.
This is not a quote to admire. It's a prompt to reflect on. Think about how this applies to what you're working through right now, whether that's training, competition, coaching, or life beyond the pool. Better yet, write about it. Reflection turns ideas into habits. This statement is drawn from the book Mental Skills for Young Athletes by John Hogg, PhD, a longtime sports psychologist based in BC, Canada. You can find the book at swimisca.com. Mental skills are trainable, but only if you slow down long enough to practice them.